Hi there, my name is Jonathan Pletus. I'm the designer of Heirs the Wizard King, and I'm going to do a solo run-through for you guys. So one of the things that's actually pretty cool about Heirs the Wizard King is you can play it by yourself. It's useful if you're trying to learn the rules to better be able to teach your friends and family, or if you have an extra 20 minutes at work. It's all made possible by the Black Wizard. He's an evil wizard that came along to kill the Wizard King. In a normal game, the players have to work cooperatively to stop the Black Wizard, but in the end, only one of them can become the next Wizard King. So it's both a cooperative and competitive game. In a solo game, however, you're the only one who can stand up against him. So he's going to quickly race up the score track, and it's your job to try and slow him down enough for you to be able to reach the top instead. So let's get to the game. Setup for Heirs of the Wizard King is actually quite simple. To begin, every player receives one of these player aids / score tracks. I'm just going to be demoing a solo version of the game, but normally there'd be more of these out. Then there's the Black Wizard. He's the enemy of the game. He's the one that every player is trying to cooperate to stop him, because if he manages to get his score token to the top of the track, he wins and all players lose. So we have to work together to stop that from happening. Obviously though, in a solo player game, I'm the only one who can stop him, but it works the same way. I'm trying to reach the top before he can, otherwise I lose and he wins. Continuing setup, both of the score tracks are going to receive these 6 colored tokens. These represent the different spells that we can learn throughout the course of the game. As we learn the spells, we're going to be increasing them up 1 spot at a time. And this is actually pretty cool because that means that you can invest in the spells that you like the most, and then you can use them at any time. And the nice thing is you don't need to use any cards in your hand, and you don't even decrease these as you use them. You just get to use the spell. So this one's a green 3. I'd be able to come down on the ability summary of the green and say, for instance, reveal the top, and then there's this symbol that represents this token. So in this case, reveal the top 3 cards of the deck, blah, blah, blah. And then similarly, this orange, I could do discard 1 card from any, and then you get the idea. So as you continue to increase these tokens, it'll increase the number of cards that you can affect with these abilities. So essentially, if you want to invest in spells, it's probably best to do it at the beginning. That way you can get the benefit of it throughout the course of the game. And if you can either focus on one spell and get it really high really fast, or you can try and spread it out and know some of all the different spells, whatever strategy you want to go for. I've seen people win doing either way, so it's really just however you want to play the game. So for continuing setup, the next thing we have to do is we're going to take this deck of cards. Oh, sorry, I didn't mention it, but both the players and the Black Wizard get a score token. It starts off at the 1 on the score track, and it represents how powerful we are as the Wizard King or Black Wizard. And the important thing to know is that the next spot on the score track, that represents how big of a chain you need in order to move up the score track. So let's talk a little bit about chains. To set up chains, every player gets dealt 1 card face up. This represents the card that they're trying to match, either color, number, or letter in this case. And then the Black Wizard will also get dealt 1 face card. In a multiplayer game, he only gets dealt 1. In a solo game, like I'm going to be playing, he actually gets dealt 2. This makes him more powerful because both chains can get cards. And the interesting thing about the Black Wizard is while I have to match color or number, he doesn't. At the end of my turn, he's going to get dealt cards to his chain. And then he's going to actually cast that spell. So he's going to take that token, move it up 1 spot, and then use his version of the spell. So after you do the first one, you then do the second one. Once again, doesn't have to match. Move up the token 1 spot, and then you do that version of his spell. So if you care to notice, every turn he's going to be getting 2 of these ability tokens. So he's going to be climbing up this ability track very quickly with his spells. So it's in my best interest to get to the top of the score track first to prevent him from getting too powerful in these spells. The next thing that we have to do is every player is going to be dealt cards for their hand. The number of cards they get is equal to their player order. So the first player, in this case me, we'll get dealt 1 card. And then if we had more players, the second player would get dealt 2, third player would get dealt 3, fourth player would get dealt 4. Once again, though, I'm just playing solo. Last thing for setup is we're going to flip the top card of the deck to create the discard pile. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the turn order. So at the beginning of every turn, at the beginning of your turn, you have to cast a spell. And you can cast spells in a number of different ways. The first way, pretty simply, is just the cards that you have in your hand. You pick one of the abilities at the bottom. You're going to play that card. You then do the text at the bottom. And then once you're complete, the card gets discarded. There are some cards, like the yellow and violet, where they actually resolve on your draw step. So what I do is, after I play the card, I actually put it sideways in the discard pile. That way it tells me, hey, I need to do this spell on my draw step. And then once you're done, you just, write it up. Turn it right up. The other option you can do is, if you don't want to activate the spell at the bottom, instead you can learn this color. So what you would do is you would, once again, play a card from your hand. You then take that color token at the top and you move it up 1 spot on the ability track. You then have the option to use that spell. So in this case, I could use a yellow 1 by reading the text. Wherever I see this book, I get to put a 1. Once I've completed using the spell, the card then gets discarded. The last option you can do is, if you've already learned spells, you can simply use the spell. So you would read the text, you would replace the number, and you don't need any cards in your hand to do that, and this doesn't go down. You never lose the spells that you learned. So I think what I'm going to do, because this is a yellow 1, so there's actually no difference between using this and learning it at the level 1 ability and then using this yellow 1. So I'm going to do that. So because I learned it, I'm going to now activate this, but it'll resolve on the draw step. So I'm just going to put this card sideways to remind myself that, hey, use that spell. The next thing you would do, normally you would still have cards in your hand. So what you would try and do is you would try and match color or number. So for instance, if I had, let me find one really fast. If I had another L card, one of these lords, I'd be able to play it next to it. So these ones both have L's. If I had a green card as well, I'd be able to do this. So these ones are both L's, these ones are both green. And you can continue to do that until the number of cards in your chain equals the next spot on the score track. So in this case, I could only have 1 card in my chain, 1 additional card. If, however, I was up here at the 4, so I was looking for a 5-card chain, if I had the cards in my hand, I could just keep adding to my chain until I reach that spot or I choose to no longer add. So that's the chaining step. The next step is the discard complete chains. So essentially what you would do there is, if you had a complete chain, or if the black wizard or one of your opponents had any complete chains, that chain would get discarded, put in the discard pile. And then that player would move their score token up 1 spot. And players also get to take one of their ability tokens, so any of these 5 or this one over here, and move it up 1 spot. You just increase it 1 spot, you don't get to use that spell right now. And the black wizard also would discard his chains and increase his score token, but he doesn't get the free benefit of increasing one of his spell tokens. So the next step, step 4, is drawing 2 cards from the deck. This is one I actually can do. So I'm going to draw 2 cards from the deck. These are the ones I have. It is important to know that if on your draw step you have too many cards, you first need to discard down to a certain number before you can draw, or you can just choose to not draw that turn. The other thing that's important to know is, if you cast one of the spells that activate on your draw step, like the one that I cast earlier, the yellow, it will resolve now. So the yellow spell I cast lets me draw 1 additional card, and then I have to pick from these cards 1 to put back on top of the deck. So I'm going to put back probably this red card. Actually, no, that's not a good idea. I'm gonna put back this purple card. Okay. So these are the cards that I'll have for my next turn. The last step you'll do on your turn is you're going to deal one card to the black chain. So, for instance, deal one card here. You know, look at that. It's the violet that I just put back on top. And I'm going to take the violet token and I'm going to move it up one spot on the black wizard's track. And then I'm going to activate that spell. The black spells are slightly different than the normal spells in the game. So they have the description of them at the bottom of his card. For the violet spells, he simply discards that number of cards from the deck. So he's going to discard one card from the deck, like so. This is important for him because not only does he get to score as his chains complete, he also gets to increase his score token if the deck ever runs out. So the violet spells, for him, let him quickly burn through the cards in the deck, whereas the violet spells for me let me shuffle the deck back into, shuffle the discard pile back into the deck. So it's this nice give and take. It's meant to represent time, which is kind of cool. So we did that. So now we're going to deal one card to his other chain. So he gets this green spell. So he's going to move this up one spot, and then he must cast the spells if possible. So his spell actually works really similarly to the normal players, where you reveal one card from the deck, and then you must add this to a chain. The black wizard obviously wants to add to himself, but because his chain is already complete, because he's looking for two, both chains are complete, he must add this to my chain if he can. Looks like he can because they're both L's, as you can see. So he didn't mean to, but he actually just helped me out. It's one of the things about the green spells is they are a bit of a gamble. So the last thing is if I had empty hand or chain, I would get dealt one card from the deck. But as it is, this is great. So what we're going to do next is go back to the top of the track, and we're going to just run through quickly. So I have to cast one of my spells. I can either cast yellow, a blue 4, I could learn blue, I could cast red 5, or I could learn red. So I think the most beneficial thing for me would be to cast this blue 4. So by casting this blue 4, activating this blue 4, I get to return up to 4 chained cards to the top of the deck in any order. So that means that I could pick any of these 6 cards, and I could move up to 4 of them to the top of the deck. I don't want to do mine since, as you can tell, it's a nice complete chain, but I can take all of these cards and put them to the top of the deck. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to put, because these ones go together in a chain, I'm going to stick them at the top, and then I'm going to put these 2 down below. So those will go right there. And that's important because the next cards that will come out of the deck will be the 2 cards that I draw. So those 2 that I put at the top, those will be the 2 cards that I draw for my next turn. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to chain matching color or number. So because my chain's already complete, I can't add to my chain. I then get to score my chain. So because my chain has 2 cards in it, and the next spot on the score track's a 2, I'm going to take this and I'm going to discard it. I then get to take my score token, move it up one spot. I get to pick any of my spells and move it up one spot. I think I'm going to take I like the red spell. I generally like to have at least one of them. They're pretty helpful. I'm sure I'll use it. I'll talk about it then. The next thing I'm going to do is I get to draw 2 cards from the deck. So I'm going to draw 2 cards. And then I'm going to deal 1 card to the black chain. So he first gets dealt this green card. It's going to move up 1 spot. Oh, forgot to discard this when I cast it, sorry. So I'm going to activate his spell, so I'm going to reveal 2 cards from the deck, and then I must add them to a chain if I can. So as you can see, they don't match this chain, which is the one he'd prefer to add to. So, and they don't match each other. So he has to deal 1 to this chain, and he has to deal 1 to me. When the black wizard can't decide, he's just going to do it randomly. So he's going to get 1, and I'm going to get 1. Okay. The second chain is going to get dealt a card. So he's going to get this other orange card. Okay. Happened to match. Didn't need to, but it did. So he's going to move his orange token up 1 spot. And then his orange spell, he's going to randomly discard 1 card from the largest chain, from the largest player's hand, sorry. So He's going to discard this one. Got rid of my purple 7. Oh no. Okay, but as you can tell, that would be pretty devastating if we were really high up on the orange track and he casts another orange spell. It would make me discard basically my entire hand. And if the hand empties, he then starts targeting chained cards. So the orange spell is a particularly dangerous one for the black wizard to have. But it's equally dangerous for me to use against him. So, can't really complain very much. So that was the end of the second turn. We're now going to go back to the top of the turn order. Okay, so I must cast a spell. I can do a number of things. I could use my yellow one, my red one. I could use a more powerful red, or even learn red and be able to get some deeper cards, or I could use this violet. So I think that I would prefer to, I think that I'm going to use my my red one. So that'll let me get this card, this violet 7, back to my hand. And while it doesn't help me right now to add to my chain, it will help me later on to have more cards in my hand. It gives me more options and more things to play around with. So that's my ability step. I then get to match colors or numbers to my chain. So I'm going to play this red 5 to match my red 1. I then discard complete chains. I don't have a complete chain, but he does. So we're going to discard this chain because it's complete. And then whenever during a solo game, whenever one of the black wizard's chain gets scored, both of his chains get discarded. So the second card's going to get discarded as well. He's going to take his score token, move it up 1 spot, and he doesn't get to move up any of his ability tokens, whereas players do. So next thing we're going to do is I get to draw 2 cards. So I'm going to draw a blue 6 and a yellow 2. And then the black wizard gets dealt cards. So he's going to get dealt this violet 3. So his violet moves up 1 spot. It's now at a violet 2. So he's going to discard 2 cards from the deck. And then his other chain will get dealt a card. It's this orange 2. So his orange is going to move up 1 spot. And I must discard 2 cards randomly from my hand. So let's go ahead and do that. So my violet 7 and my blue 6. All right. Okay, so here I am, and what do I want to do now? Because we're back to the top of the turn order. So I think that I'm going to use my yellow ability. Oh, sorry, learn my yellow ability. So I can take my yellow token, move it up 1 spot. I then get to cast this yellow 2, which will happen at the end of my turn. So I'll just put that sideways like that. I then get a chain. I don't have any matching colors or numbers, so I can't. And then we're going to skip scoring since no one has a complete chain. So I get to now use this ability. We'll resolve this ability, sorry. So I'm going to draw 4 cards. And then from these 4 cards, I get to pick 2 to add to my hand and 2 to put back into the deck. So I'm going to keep this red because it'll match my chain nicely. And then I get to choose, essentially, what cards the black wizard's going to use on his turn. So he can either use 2 green spells, or he can use a purple and a green spell. Well, I'm going to... Well, I'm going to keep this purple since it matches my other card. So I'm going to put these back to the top of the deck. And then the black wizard will get dealt cards. So he gets dealt this green card. He gets to move this green token up 1 spot. So he gets to reveal 3 cards from the deck. And then he must add them to a chain that they match. So he's going to add, he doesn't want to, but he has to give me some. So he's going to take this green 5 and put it here, since that'll complete his chain. And then if he had an orange, he would want to put it here, or a 2 he doesn't, so he has to give me 1. Because this 5 matches one of the 5s he got, that'll go right there. And then this one doesn't match anywhere, so it's going to get discarded. Then his second chain is going to get dealt a card. It's this yellow 7. So with the yellow abilities for the black wizard, what's going to happen is he's going to look at the top 2 plus 1, so in this case 3 cards, and then he's going to pick cards that can add to his chain. And he can take up to 2 cards. So it works pretty similarly to the player's yellow ability. So he's going to take this one, Actually, these ones both match. So he's just going to take a random one. Okay, so he's going to take that orange instead. And then whatever cards he doesn't take, just go back to the top of the deck in a random order. Okay, so here we are. And the black wizard has 2 complete chains. I have a complete chain. And I don't have any spells that can stop him. So all I can really do is set up. Maybe it's time to try and get the discard pile back into the deck, because remember, if the deck runs out, he automatically moves up 1 spot. So I'm going to cast this Violet 6, and this is one that will activate on the draw step. So I'm going to stick it in the discard pile sideways so that I know that I cast this Violet 6. Okay, so now we're going to skip to the score step. So my chain will get scored. Discard it right there. I get to move up my score token. And I'm going to pick, I need something that can start fighting him. So I'm going to pick a blue ability, and I'll move it to the 1 so I can use that on later turns. And then he's going to score, so both of his chains will get discarded. And he's going to move his score token up. Only 1 spot, not 2 spots, just 1. Okay, so now we're on the draw step, so my Violet 6 ability will get resolved. So the way the Violet abilities work is we're going to, you discard your hand, and then you're going to shuffle the discard pile and the deck into each other. So I'm going to give it a quick shuffle. Once again, please shuffle better than I'm doing. Just prototype cards, kind of sensitive about them. Okay, so once that's done, I get to draw whatever number violet it was. So it was a Violet 6, so I get to draw 6 cards, like so. And then don't forget to put 1 card into the discard pile. Okay, the last thing is the black wizard's going to get dealt 1 card to his first chain. So he's going to move the red ability up 1 spot. And essentially what the red abilities let him do is he gets to look at that number of cards. So in this case, he gets to look at 1 card from the discard pile, so the top card. If it matches his chain, he gets to add it to his chain. This one doesn't, so his ability doesn't get to do anything. We're then going to add a card to his second chain. It's this yellow, so he's going to move it up 1 spot. So now he gets to look at 4 cards from the deck, and he gets to keep up to 2 of them that match. Okay, so he gets to take any one of these 3, since the yellows match and this blue will match. So we're going to shuffle these up. We're going to reveal 2 of them, okay, like so. And then the remaining cards will get shuffled up and put back on the top of the deck. And the last thing that's going to happen on the turn is, because I have an empty chain, I get dealt 1 card to my chain. Okay, so now it's my turn again. Let's fan these cards out so you can see them. Okay, so I have a lot of options this time around. So because I have a 7 down here, I could match with this violet. Okay, that'd be good. Or something I could do, if you notice, I actually have these 4 cards match each other. I have 3 blues and then this Lord, they all match each other. So if I could get rid of this card during my ability step, on my chaining step, I could actually put any card down to start my chain over again. And so because I have this blue ability, I'm going to cast that. Lets me, I'll just read it, return up to 1 chain card to the top of the deck in any order. So I'm going to pick this card. I could pick him, but because he isn't complete, not quite as much of a threat. So I'm going to pick this card and I'm going to put it at the top of the deck. And then I'm going to go to my chain step. So I got to add any card to my empty chain. So I'm going to pick to do these 4 cards like so. And then on the score step, I get to score this chain, move my token up 1 spot, and that actually worked pretty well. So I'm going to move my blue up 1 more spot. Okay, now I get to draw 2 cards from the deck. And then the black wizard's turn. So he's going to get dealt this yellow 5. So he's going to move this yellow token up. It's now at yellow 3. So he gets to look at 5 cards. Okay, and he gets to pick any one of these that'll match. So it looks like quite a lot of them do. So let's shuffle them up. Okay, so he's going to match that one. And he's going to match, that doesn't work anymore, that one. Okay, just like that. And then the remaining cards get shuffled up and put back to the top of the deck, like so. Okay, and then his chain will get dealt a card. Okay, and it's this red ability, so he's going to move the red token up. It's now at a 2, but because both of his chains are full, he doesn't get to actually resolve this ability. So my chain is empty. I get dealt 1 card, like so. Okay, and I hope you're noticing one thing that's happening. So the black wizard's filling up both of his chains really quickly, and he has all of these spells that he's already learning. Whereas right now I only have, 1 red, 2 yellow, and 2 blue learned. So, man, I better hurry up. Okay, that's probably a good place to stop. Thanks for watching the solo mode for Heirs of the Wizard King. I should note the solo mode generally takes about 20 minutes to play, so definitely short enough to fit in during a lunch break at work, especially if you're not teaching the rules as you go. I should also note that the current playtesting has the Black Wizard winning about half of the games, so it's definitely a pretty good challenge. If you feel like he's too difficult, you can ease him up a bit by only giving him 1 chain instead of 2. If you want him to be more difficult, you can give him a 3rd chain. So far I've only managed to win once against the 3-chain wizard. And then because I know you're curious, the Black Wizard did beat me this game. He ended up having the deck run out and getting that last point as I was almost about to win. Anyways, thanks for watching the video. If you're interested, the Heirs of the Wizard King Kickstarter is live right now. It's available until October 5th. It's only $19 for a copy of the game, and that covers shipping worldwide, so pretty good deal. Thanks for watching. Okay, bye.